Hello?
Hello.
Ah, brilliant. Okay, I just can't hear you. That's the only thing.
Oh,
I think it's I'm using my microphone jack and I think it's gone in the Try again. Say hi.
Can you hear me now?
I can. It helps if you take the microphone out of the headphone jack.
That's the story of my life. But I can't see you.
You can't see me. Right, okay. How do we do this then?
Start video. Oh, there's something at the bottom.
All right, okay. Oh, there I am. Hello, I'm at the top. Oh, that's scary. That's horrible. Right. How
Well,
do
you
we
are the host. You should be at the top.
Yeah, but it's just, oh no. No, I'm not keen on this. Oh, right, what's that? Ah, okay, I can see you side by side. So hopefully that's what's going to record now.
Awesome.
Oh, this is so cool. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited. It'll be fun.
Oh, right. I suppose we should get this started then.
Yes.
Yeah. I must admit, I'm really nervous because I'm using Zoom, obviously, because you know that because you're on here, and I've paid the subscription so it records, but it records to the cloud. I'm like, but which bit of the cloud? How do I find it? What if it rains?
Which cloud? The rain cloud?
Exactly.
The Nimbus cloud?
No idea. So we'll give it a go. Oh, right.
Good time.
Okay, so yeah, as I said, thank you so much for offering to talk to me. This is really cool. Really keen to hear about you and your work as a crafter and designer. And let's start, because obviously for this interview format, I've asked you to find a few desert island knits, things that you just couldn't be without, that you absolutely love.
Couldn't be without. And two of them are actual, well, one's a theory knit, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the theory knit then. Because we'll
knit.
spread these between the sections.
They're all they're all over the place, because I was thinking like, do I have any like specific knits I want to bring? No, the theory knit is not so much a pair of socks, but I want to be able to just knit socks when I'm on a desert island, because I could just go to town and knit and knit and knit and knit. I could pull out socks any time of the day, any time of the year. So socks. I want to knit socks on a desert island.
Oh, have you got a particular construction of sock that you like to do? I can only do top down at the moment.
I only like top down. I do toe up, but I don't, just none of the heel constructions fit my duck feet. I have very narrow heels and really wide toes, but like just none of the heel constructions work really well. They always kind of want to point at the back. So I don't like it. So I'm a top down traditional heel flap, and they're super easy because just you don't have to do much math. Whatever your cast on is, half of that's your heel. Your heel flap, her heel flap is that same number of rows, and then you just pick up and you decrease back down to the original number. So it's very little thinking. So that's why I just love top down socks. They're my brainless knit. Brainless? Yeah. TV knitting, potato chip knitting. Don't want to think any more knitting.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Oh, that's really cool. I haven't actually tried toe up yet, but I've got the same thing as you. I'm kind of like duck feet.
Yep.
I now will not bother trying. So that's great. But that's really interesting, though, what you say about not much math, because surely there's loads of math in designing.
There is in designing, but socks, the gauge is not going to be a big variation. People are going to get between 7 and 9 stitches per inch for a good, traditional fingering weight sock. And it really, you have that one foot circumference measurement that you have to worry about, and the rest is just halves in there. Now, when it comes to sweaters, yeah, that's a lot of math.
So do you enjoy the math, or is it a necessary evil of designing?
It's a little bit of a mix of both of those things. It's a necessary evil for sure. But I kind of enjoy it. So I use Excel spreadsheets, and I have, hundreds of formulas on these documents. And so my spreadsheets tend to scare people. So when I figure out a formula that I need to use and just plug in my gauge and it just spits out all these numbers, it's a major pride moment. Like, oh, look at all that math. I did that. So yeah, it's a little mix of both, a little mix. I was terrible at math in school and high school and college. I barely scraped through college algebra, but now I use algebra all the time.
Wow. I liked algebra, but I couldn't think of a way. I was frustrated with that at school because the one bit of math I was good at was the one that my teacher said I was least likely to need. So again, I'm feeling a bit reassured.
That was me in statistics. It's like, when are you ever going to use statistics in real life? But I rocked statistics in college.
So what led you to get into designing? Why do you keep doing it? What is it about designing for you?
It was kind of a fluke that I got into designing. I started knitting, and it was an instantaneous obsession, which quickly led to, I can add to this, or I can make this pattern a little bit better, or I need to tweak this so it fits me better. Or it just became that those weren't enough for me. So I just started designing my own things. And then, I don't even remember what year it was, 2007 is when my daughter was born. So about 2009, thereabouts. I moved to Colorado. I'm taking my kids to McDonald's to play. Don't judge. And they're playing, and I'm knitting a pair of socks, ironically. And this British lady comes up to me, and she's all, "Have you ever thought about designing?" And I'm all, "What are you talking about? What do you mean design?" She was like, knitting patterns for magazines. And I went, "You can do that?" I just always assumed that magazines were created by, big name designers that sit in design warehouses as part of the team or something. I don't know, like a fashion house or something. And no, the majority of them are freelance designers working from home. So anyway, she gave me her card, and ironically, she's my best friend Jill, who I mentioned to you in an earlier conversation. And she gave me her card. We started emailing. She sent me this design submission call for interweave knits. I piecemealed something together. Of course, it was rejected immediately. But I was just already like, okay, I'm going to get in a magazine. That's my new goal. I'm one of those people, the goal comes and I chase it until I achieve it. And then it's, what's next? So I submitted to the magazine, got rejected, just started researching like crazy. And there was this gal named Mary Beth Temple from Hooked for Life Publishing who had some designer classes online, how to be a designer kind of thing. And so I signed up for her class, and she walked us through the basics of, find these books, use sewing books to learn about grading, and here's how you put together a design proposal, and this is what should go on it. And just from there, submitted my first proposal to Creative Knitting Magazine. They accepted it, and the rest kind of is history. And there's learning around every single corner, and I just love learning. So it keeps me happy.
Oh, so for people who perhaps aren't familiar, by grading, you mean like the sizing up of things?
Yes.
Right. Okay, cool.
That's grading.
Yeah. So, is it for, I mean, obviously, the learning process is fun, but I just got done watching Felicia's Taking Back Friday. I'm a bit behind, so I just got done watching the fall collections coming out, like the knitting and the crochet and things, right. And it just struck me that it must be like this constant process going on. Like you must be doing fall in the spring and get done doing that, and then do Christmas, and then it's like, how do you keep the motivation going? Is it just that thrill of having something finished and like, right, what's next? Or
it could be a little bit of that. I very much am obsessed with crossing off something and the satisfaction of seeing the line go through it off my to-do list. So it could be that. I'm also a severe organizer at heart. So constantly organizing things and working around deadlines helps. Staying motivated though, a lot of that has to do with the team that I get to work with. Sweet Georgia, and I loved them before I started working with them, but they are just such an integral team that works together in these amazing personal ways, that constantly encouraging and inspiring, and always meeting to think about new ideas and what can we do and what can we change and what can we improve and what needs to be gotten rid of and what needs to be adjusted here. So it's just that constant feedback and communication that just feeds the creative energy. I think I definitely go through periods of burnout where it's like, I cannot knit one more thing today, which I'm sort of might be in that stage right now, but I'm hiring some sample knitters to take over for me. But it's, the deadlines have never been too much of a problem for me. It's the teamwork that really, really brings it into that, I can't wait to get rolling on this next project.
Yeah, I get that sense from you actually. Just as you're talking about it, your whole self became more energized talking about this team. It sounds like a really exciting. Yeah, it sounds like a really great team to work with. That sounds brilliant. So I mean, actually, that was what I was going to ask you about deadlines. You mentioned it. I am just. It feels really arrogant to say this phrase, but I'm going to say it. I'm just starting out as a designer. You know, people are saying to me, well, that's what you're doing, say it. Okay.
Right, do it.
But I'm really nervous about the deadlines. So I've got this fantastic tech editor, and she's been brilliant and fired my first pattern back at me, and I need to fire another one at her. And it's just, I feel really daunted about them and worried that I'm one of these people that I am really excited to do something until I know I've got to do it. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to do it now. I'm not interested. How do you cope with deadlines? Do they daunt you? Do they excite you? Do they?
Both. Deadline, I have to have a deadline. If I don't give myself a deadline, then I definitely don't ever do it. So a lot of my personal projects flounder on the wayside until I say, no, this is the deadline to get it done. And I work from that deadline and build my steps backwards. So that's my tip of advice for you. Pick a deadline, break down everything that you need to do into teeny tiny little baby steps. Because when we look at the big picture, I'm going to release this new pattern. We go, oh, that's a really big something. Where do I start? But if you take that, here are all the little baby steps. And I tend to break them down into like 15, no more than 30-minute tasks, you know, except for the knitting, the actual sample. We know that takes hours upon hours. But, you know, if I need to do a review on this pattern, emailing to the tech editor, it's those little teeny tiny baby breakdowns. Schedule a photo shoot, hire the photographer, whatever, you know, whatever it happens to be. Break those down, and then those get plugged into the to-do list all the way back until we're at now. So that helps keep me on track. But I also have I'm a severe organizer, but I'm a bit of a procrastinator. And it's honestly, when you break it down, it has to do with fear of, you know, not being good enough. You know, fear is always that little festering wound inside that gets in the way. And so I'll sometimes put things off until the very last minute. But if I have that deadline, by golly, I'm not missing that deadline.
That sounds really good. I can't imagine how you manage being someone who's really organized but also a procrastinator.
Yeah.
That's quite a contradiction.
I have no idea. I feel like I'm a walking contradiction like all the time. I'm a paradox of contradictions. And like you said earlier, I have to be on top of all of that because I do, you know, right now, today, I have my holiday collection is launching in 3 weeks. We just released the call for fall winter 19 submissions, and then the deadline for samples to come in for spring 2019 is in 2 weeks, I think. So I'm in the middle of 3 seasons right now. Sometimes I'll look at the window. What season am I in? Like, is it fall now? Is it, what month is this?
So you're already thinking about fall 19.
Always, yeah.
Just released fall 18, and
yeah,
wow.
you have to think that far ahead, and it's hard because trends change. You never know what the major colors are going to be. So it's a lot of research and a lot of just guessing on like what we need to do. But it's also that teamwork and communication helps. Like we're thinking dark for fall 2019, and that's my boss Felicia, that's what's been energizing her and what she's been mulling over, and I took that and spun it and created our mood board off of it. But there's always to-do list items every day because of these constantly circulating seasons. And right now I'm in the middle of choosing my color palettes for the tiny little mini May collection is what I call it. It's just a little 4-piece collection that usually is just me, because I'm like, I want a little something that I can just do and not have to deal with a bunch of other things.
That sounds amazing. And just how casually you say, just a small collection, just 4 pieces. And I'm like, whoa, I'm designing my first socks and my head's exploding. That's incredible.
You can do it. It's once you get into the rhythm of things, of just, as you start designing, you're going to know how long it takes you to get a sock pattern done. You're going to know how long it takes you to get a sweater pattern done. And so once you build that routine into it, then the planning falls into place.
So it sounds really, really inspiring and fun. And like hearing you talk about colors, actually, it's another thing I want to ask you. Are there any particular colors that you are really drawn to, that you kind of find yourself working in, or are you always guided by the color stories or the palettes? Or
well, it depends on the situation, I suppose. On a personal level, I'm really drawn to purples and blues, like always. Although I've been on a little bit of a yellow kick lately. Don't know where that came from. Just like, I love purple and blues. I'm cool colors. Why yellow? For collections and individual patterns, they kind of fall 2 different ways. Collections, it's a lot of research, kind of trying to guess where the trends are going to go, seeing what the studio goals are for the following, that for that particular season, on what color collections they want to put together, and so we kind of work around that. Individual patterns, so Sweet Georgia releases collections every season, but we also release individual monthly patterns, and most of those, it's 50-50. Half are from me, where I just decide, I'm gonna make a shell for April, and that's what comes out in April, and then the other half are planned with independent freelance designers that submit to us, and we say, oh, we love this, let's include this in our monthly thing. Those tend to be more on the spot related to trends, on what's going on, not so much technique wise, but just color wise, and what new colors and new yarns did we not use enough in our past collection, so we try to incorporate that. But I'll admit that a lot of the designs you see from me on an individual note are going to be those blues and purples, or neutral colors, although I'm trying to get more into like bold reds and oranges. I'm trying.
That sounds weird. It was just curious to me, because obviously, like, I find going to fibre festivals, I keep being drawn to certain colour palettes and liking to work with them, but then you see designs online with say like Stephen West, for example, with these kind of crazy colour combinations, and I can't imagine having how to start. Do you start with the design? Do you start with the texture? Do you start with the color? So it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's a different process for every single designer. And most of the time for me, I start with a silhouette that I want to work with. And then I figure out the shape from there, the stitches from there. And then I'll kind of build my color palette and then decide where I want to go. But usually the color palette comes last, like just how I want to work with it. the mini May collection that I told you about. I'm in the middle of picking my colors for that. I'm like, oh, let's go with blues. And I'm like, no, all the new colors this for spring are these lovely, really muted, almost ice cream colors, I call them, but they're really muted. I'm like, okay, I gotta focus on those colors. But this purple, no, come back and use the mid julep, you know? So I'm having to keep myself on track.
In there somewhere. You know, exactly. Like that rose stick.
There's a little
purple. I got to get one row.
That's right. I have no idea how Stephen West does it, but like it wasn't that long ago, 3 months ago, I think, where like all these sweaters that kept coming out were ginger and orange and cayenne. And, you know, it's like, okay, so oranges are really, really hot right now. So it's just monitoring those and seeing what's going on. And that really feeds a lot of the color choosing too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's have another one of your desert island knits.
Desert Island knits.
Lots of heavy stuff.
Okay, this is super lame. It's only because I don't.
There's no such thing as a lame knit.
There is. Because it's one of my own designs, and that makes me feel cheesy, and you know. But I have very few samples on hand because I just shipped them, a bunch of them to Canada, where the studio is located. But I do happen to have my Tullameen shawl, and it's a symbol of the shawls I want to bring. Like, it's not just this shawl, but I love shawl. Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler, do the spoiler thing.
My version of Tullameen. And we have ultraviolet and lollipop and rainbow sprinkles, which was such a fun color to use. So anyway, I love shawls. I need to take shawls to my desert island. Who doesn't? Because they're easy, they're quick to knit, and they're still super warm.
They're really, really gorgeous. I'm going to confess something now.
You didn't finish yours.
No, well, that's not a confession. This is me.
That's just knowledge.
My oldest whip is 15 years old, so that's fine.
That's okay.
I started knitting it for my cousin when she was 6, and she now has 2 children of her own. So I'm waiting for them to grow into it, but I think they're both boys, so they might look a bit odd. But
that's too
funny. Yeah. No, I haven't yet finished it. I'm really enjoying doing it, and I've decided to not worry about keeping up with the mystery knit along. I just want to enjoy the process. I'm going to confess it's actually the first shawl I've ever knit.
Really?
I'm
humbled.
Well, I mean, obviously I didn't have a clue what it would be like because it's a mystery, and you very kindly helped me pick out my colours, which is amazing. Thank you, because I freaked out. I didn't realise how much of a worrier and a control freak I was, but I was like, I've got these colours, but I don't know if it's going to work because I don't know.
We get so many emails with the same thing, like just like, I'm so overwhelmed by the color choices. Help me. So Bridget,
you gave that great thing, that great palette with all these suggestions, and it was pretty, I read it, I was like, oh, this is great, I'm going to be able to choose my colors easily. No.
Don't feel bad. You're not unusual.
Thank you. Well, you're very kind to help so many of us out. I might grab it in a bit and show you how it's working up, but it's looking really good. But yeah, with shawls then, you say you love shawls. This is my first shawl that I've knit. I've found it really fascinating how the construction works, because when you said like start in the round, I was like, what's going to happen? And then I was like, is it stretching it out? And I think it's a square. And then I was like, yeah, it's a square. And actually I am way behind. But I'm not apologising for that because I'm really enjoying the process. But I saw Felicia show hers off, and I was like, oh wow, that's what it's going to look like.
Awesome.
Amazing, the construction. So do you when it comes to shawls, do you have a particular construction? Do you like trying different ways of putting things together? What is it about shawls for you that you love designing?
They're just these great, my favorite part about shawls is it's a great stash buster, you know, because for me, I am a sucker for sock yarns, all the hand dyes and everything, and you could just buy one skein of it and then you bring it home, and I have, oh my gosh, I have 40 other skeins of fingering weight yarn. What am I gonna do with it all? So they're great stash busters. They're great gifts to give. So that's why I think shawls are so popular. That's why they're my favorite thing to knit. I am not innovative when it comes to shawl construction. That just, you look at Joji Locatelli, and I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I feel terrible. Sorry, Joji. The way she comes up with shawl designs just blows my mind. In fact, that should be your next project, is my other favorite shawl.
Okay.
She did this as a mystery, I think it's called Starting Point shawl.
Oh, I've heard of that.
And this, it starts here on the end, and so you're working into the center, and then you get to the center and you have two pieces, and so you join them right here, and so then this is knit out, and then so I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, knit out, and then you have I think that's what it was. No, you decrease, because as you're picking up, you keep decreasing until you get a straight edge, and then you do the same on the other side there. So this was a fascinating. And honestly, this was one of the first projects that I had knit from somebody else in like 10 years, I think. And so it was just like, oh, I should do somebody else's stuff more often, so I do not have to think so hard. Let them do the hard work, and I get something that's like innovative. But my other favorite is the sideways asymmetrical, because you can just cast on 3 stitches. You just increase on one side. It depends. There's a couple different ways to do it. So I like to do 2 increases at the beginning and 1 decrease at the end. So you're always increasing every other row, and you just keep going until you're done, and then you bind off. And so it's like the perfect stash buster shawl. You do anything with it, any stitch works with it. Any yarn works with it, and you can knock it out, and it wears really great too.
Yeah, so I tell you what you mean about stash busting, because I've got a fairly healthy stash of indie dyed sock yarns, and like some of them, they're just too pretty to put on your feet. You know what I mean? It's like, these don't need to be socks.
I know. I have this one skein. It's from Western Sky Knits, and I think it's called Goldfish, and it's just like, in the skein, if I could frame it and just hang it on my wall, I just would. And I'm just like, it's too good for a pair of socks. I need something that really shows this perfect orange and like sky blue waters. Like, it just looks like you just.
Oh, it sounds gorgeous.
The goldfish bowl, like, it's amazing. So yeah, they're great. That's why we love shawls.
Yeah. Oh well, I think I'm definitely going to have to get more into shawls. So yeah, I've got I found my first skein of Juno Fibre Arts. She was a Devon-based dyer in the UK, and she stopped dyeing about 5 years ago. But I got my first skein of her yarn in a yarn shop in Devon last summer, and I just wandered around stroking this yarn, because it was like, and it was cashmere and silk and alpaca, and it was just gorgeous. And I was just stroking it, and then I realised I couldn't get any more, and I'm like, this can't be socks. This has to be, I mean, not that it would have been with that fibre content anyway, but you know what I mean? It's just like, what do I use it with? But it's been really nice knitting the Tullameen to finally use some of these gorgeous yarns that I've been carefully curating in stash.
That's awesome.
And see them play together. It's really cool.
Awesome. I love it.
It's nice. I'm really enjoying just chatting with you, and I'm going off piste a lot here. But
no, it's okay.
Stick to your notes, Gemma. Stick to your notes. Well, you know, funnily enough, I'm actually meant to be talking to you about the Tullameen now.
So perfect segue.
Perfect segue. Perfect. So I'd like to ask you, if you'd like to share it, what the inspiration for that shawl was, and how did it get its name, Tullameen? That's a really interesting name.
The inspiration actually came from the colors this time. I picked these colors first. I just wanted, I don't even know how. I think I just was messing around, because I should have brought them. They're actually downstairs. We have these color chips that they send me. So every time we get new colors, I add to my box. So I have these little cards with yarn wrapped around it of the new colors coming out. And so I just was I don't know, organizing, playing, who knows what I was doing. And these 3 colors just fell next to each other. And I went, they're just perfect. I need to use them together. And the transition from the dark to the light, it just made me think of transitions, and which then led me to end of summer, because the shawl was coming out end of summer. And I just was thinking about how the berries, they transition from green to flowery to fruit to back to green, and before they finally, go dormant for the fall and winter. And Tullameen is actually a type of raspberry.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so I named it after the raspberry bush that we're all saying their farewells. End of Tennessee summer, and so that's pretty much how it came about.
Oh wow! It kind of, being in the process of knitting it, I can totally see how that idea of transition kind of comes to play with it, because like I say, you start with that kind of tight knot of center and then go out, and that ending, which obviously I didn't know until I saw Felicia show hers and then yours. But I don't care about spoilers. I like to know what I'm doing.
I'm like, I need to know what's coming.
Exactly. I don't know why I did an MKAL, being a massive control freak like I am, but I have really enjoyed it. I have really enjoyed it. And I haven't looked at any spoilers online either. I've been really good. So until I saw Felicia's, obviously, but I was like, yeah, I'm so far behind. That's fine. So with that, talking about MKALs, what is more daunting for you as designer, releasing a completed pattern collection or an individual pattern, or releasing an MKAL?
Mystery knit-alongs are extremely daunting. And honestly, I say this every single time I have a mystery knit-along. Every single time. I am too sensitive to do this anymore. I'm not doing it again. But then I still do, because I can't stop designing. What's wrong with me? Mystery knit-alongs are different because people have expectations on how it goes, and I don't know if it's from past mystery knit-alongs or just, I don't know, because you don't know if they're going to be happy or disappointed with the final results. They don't know how their colors are going to go, so it could end up that they hate them. And it's a very small percentage, like super, 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 super tiny percentage, where when they're not happy, they really want you to know that. And so I'm very sensitive. And so when somebody's not happy, that bothers me, of course, because I want all my knitters to be happy. But I got just a handful, I mean, it was less than 5 emails where they just weren't kind, in their unhappiness. And, they questioned my integrity as a designer, and that's the reality of any art that you put out there. Logically, of course, I knew this. I don't know if you've ever read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, but she says in there, because she's a writer, she says in there that your job is to make the art.
Yeah.
Your job is not to be judge, jury, lawyer, defense lawyer, none of that after the art is already out there. So I really try hard to remember that. And remembering that is what helps me get my inspiration and encouragement back, I guess you could say. And again, those emails are so few and far between that they don't make a dent in the impact of people who are just so wonderful and encouraging and uplifting, and just enjoy the process. But again, I don't know what it is. It's like, my husband says this, why do we remember the negative experiences more than the positive experiences? Why do they carry more weight? And it's the same kind of thing. Why do these 2 emails carry more weight than the 4 other emails I got? What is up with that? So that is my internal therapy session of what I'm trying to work on. You're welcome.
I think it's survival instinct. I think it's left over from that. So it used to be genuine flight or fight.
Right.
You know, back in the day when we were running around with clubs and wearing fur, and yeah, it used to genuinely be that. And so I think, I mean, I was talking to someone he's a mindfulness coach.
Right.
And I was chatting with him, and he said that that's kind of what it is, and that's why we get that physical reaction, and why we tend to hold on to the negative, which is silly because there's so many people who are just loving what you do, and as you say, it's your job to create the art, and you know.
Yeah, I think it's just one of the life lessons that creative types have to learn. Like, really learn. I'm still learning it, but like I said, I have such a great support network in my team, and you know, they're very uplifting, and they're all like, you know, we're happy and you work for us, so so as long as that holds up, I should be good to go.
Would it be fair to say then that there's a certain amount of vulnerability then to be an artist, to be a designer, because you're putting a bit of you out there, aren't you?
Yes. These are the things that I love and I enjoy, and the stitches that mean something to me, and the stories behind why I select colors and all of that kind of stuff. I put my whole self into everything that I do. And so, yeah, that's probably why it hurts, why you become vulnerable, because it is you.
Yeah.
In a theory that I'm giving to the world. It's me, you know, it's not just the design that I made. And you can sometimes see that in my writing, because I share personal stories and how this comes about for me. And what the knitting, because knitting is a type of meditation for me to begin with anyway. It's like when you're meditating, you breathe, and you exhale, and breathe, and that's all you're focusing on. And so knitting is the same thing. I'm knitting one stitch, leaving one needle, it's letting go and moving on to the next needle. You know, so all of that comes together into vulnerability.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that idea of one stitch at a time, and also the process. I mean, I think that's why I'm surprised that people would be vocal in displeasure, especially with the nature of a mystery knit along. A gamble. You might not like what you do at the end, but that's not the point. That's not why you do it. You do it for the. I mean, okay, I've talked about how psycho I went with my colour choosing, but you do it for the fun of finding out what's next. And for me, I found it really immersive, because not having the picture of the finished product, I can't try and for the fun and the immersion of finding out how those stitches work together, those combinations, and trying to figure out where we're going. So I was quite surprised to hear that some people, I'm going to say, lack common sense when it comes to mystery knit-alongs. You know, I mean, I was still, right up until I saw Felicia's finished object, I was still a bit nervous about whether I'd put the colours in the right order, for example. But I'm cool with that now. It's great. I'm loving it.
And everybody has their own desires, their own preferences, their own flaws and intricacies, and that's, I think, the special thing about a mystery knit along is that it forces you to be super intimate with yourself, and that's like really it, which is why community is so important, you know. And when you're doing a mystery knit along, you're on the forums and you're sharing on social media so that you can have that support network, I guess you could say, as you're narrowing in on your little bit of therapy.
Yeah, and that's leads me on to my next question, actually. Everyone picks up their knitting needles for their own personal reasons. So I've just taught a 4-week beginners knitting course, and everyone's kind of come to it for slightly different reasons. And actually, in the course of those 4 weeks, some life-changing things have happened to my knitters, and it's kind of, we're on this journey together. I mean, personally, I found craft, and the reason I'm kind of doing this now, and the reason I'm kind of trying to be a designer, has come about because it's helped me personally with grief. It's given me a meaningful connection to my daughter, who I think you're aware passed away this year. but also it's given me a connection back to other people. And that's kind of links with what you were saying about community. So last year I was suffering, before all this happened, I was suffering from depression, and I was barely connecting with anyone, but through the internet, through this kind of worldwide community we've got, it's helped me personally. So I kind of was going to ask you, what does knitting mean to you? You've talked about meditation, but
yeah, knitting is, it started out as an obsession. And I think
there's a theme here.
It's really hard to define because it has so many meanings for me. Knitting helps me through my depression, because I've had several periods in my life. You know, right now I'm back on antidepressants. It just is what it is. But not just the knitting, it's the making, it's the doing with the hands. In Ayurveda, the hands are like one of the most important aspects of the body. And the reason is that they talk about how your fingers are representative of the 5 elements. And so not like God, but like God, our hands and the using of them allow us to participate in creation like God did. You know what I mean? And so that has always really hit home for me. And that using your hands and using those elements, you know, earth, wind, you know, all that kind of stuff. All of that kind of coming together is very ancestral feeling to me. So I feel connected to the past. I feel connected to those DNA memories, I guess you could say. I know it sounds all like woo-woo and
No, not at all.
But it's that act of creation that reminds me that I don't need to be stuck in my own head. I can be out here and making and giving, and knitting is giving. I have very few of my knits. Almost all of them have been given away, you know, and that is healing for me. So knitting's my therapy. I hear that a lot.
Well, I think there's a lot of truth in it. It's really interesting what you say about the making, and also I think in society now, for most people in most jobs, there's this removal, a very Marxist alienation from the products of your labour. You're doing it for the man, aren't you? And, you know what I mean? But actually having something that you've created, and even if you're putting it out into the world, I mean, you're seeing us creating all these Tullameens all over the place. That must be pretty cool.
It is so humbling. And every time it happens, I think about this moment when we moved to Colorado, and there's this mountain called Lookout Mountain, and you drive up this like super windy hill, and you get to like one of the pull-off spots, and you look out towards the east where the mountains are to the west. So it's all flat out there, but all you see for miles and miles is this sprinkling of lights, and you just see how many people are, and you just suddenly feel so small in such a tiny world, but not in a negative way, like as in, oh, there's so much more to see and experience. And so to me, no matter how many people knit something that I've designed, it's that same kind of feeling. Look how far and how much bigger it becomes in these other lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's the moment of the sublime. That's by Shelley wrote poems, like they did this whole grand tour thing, and they went to I can't even think where Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein now. It's terrible, I should know this. I'm an ex-English teacher, but ex-English teacher, right? I don't need to know this. But yeah, he talks about seeing the mountains and having that exact moment, that exact feeling of just how small he is, but not in an insignificant bad way, like you say, in a like, wow, look at this way.
Humbling way that just makes you realize the importance of all of those little tiny ripples on their own, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose there's another thing that a writer wrote about talking about this idea of review and what people think of your work. And he said, I think it was Khaled Hosseini wrote 1,000 Splendid Suns and The Kite Runner.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it's him. And he said that, you know, as a writer, you complete your book and you send it out to the world, and then it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
So actually, how it's received by other people, that's fine, because it's theirs.
Yeah.
It's yours and other interpretations. And actually talking about those little lights and how much bigger your patterns become as they go out, I can't help but wonder what all these different shawls mean to different people.
Yeah.
So mine's my first experiment with, like, really experimenting with colour, and it's going to be my first shawl, and that's not going to anybody, that's being kept by my first one, right? Okay, this is my trophy shawl. I've done a shawl, you know. And Verity of Truly Hooked, she's an English indie dyer and designer. I was test knitting some socks for her not long after my daughter passed away, and for me that was help therapy, and those socks helped me with my process and coming to it. And now, I mean, she actually went on to name the socks for my daughter, which is just incredible. But it's, and there are so many stories like that where people knit an item, and regardless of what the inspiration was originally behind it, it becomes something else for them, and that becomes something else, and you pass it on, and that, so your knits that you pass on to someone else, well, that becomes a hug for them. And
that's right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Oh.
It's
Right, I'm conscious that we're probably coming towards the end. Let's have another one of your desert island knits. We're getting really deep and meaningful here, aren't we? This is a philosophy podcast, people.
Who knew that you'd come to a therapy session? My third desert island, and my last one, I only picked 3. It is a stitch pattern book.
Ooh.
It's one of my favorites. I go through it all the time. And it's all Japanese stitch patterns, so that I will never, ever be bored coming up with a stitch for my socks.
You've planned this really well. I'm really impressed with this.
Hey, planner.
Yeah, totally. And I love how you've interpreted the idea of desert island knits as well. That's brilliant. So so with that, then you've got 1,000 stitches in there. Are there types of stitches you like to use? Do you find yourself drawn to lace, or drawn to cables, or drawn to, you know?
Oh yes, I love lace. I love lacy stuff. And I like twisted stitches a little bit, second best, and then cable stitches. But I also have an equal fondness for just brainless knitting. You know, I could go on for miles and miles of stockinette stitch and just be happy.
I found that about your shawl, actually. Once I got into really got into Clue 1 and got the rhythm of it, it was really nice. Apart from that, I had to keep an eye on my stick. I don't know what I did. I did it. Who had to come on, that's like, how do you end up making a mistake and having to rip that back?
I've been knitting for, let's see, my oldest daughter's 13. I learned a year before she was born, so 14 years, and I still make constant mistakes. Constant. It doesn't go away. But that's why every Christmas gift I give, and it's knit, it's got a label that says guaranteed to have at least one mistake, or it's not an original.
I love that. I love it. There we go. See, this is a mark of quality here.
Right.
Yeah, what I was saying though was with each clue, I found that you get into the rhythm of it, and it's really nice. And then just as you get to the point where you think, I'm kind of ready for something different, there it is. That's really cool.
Well, that's good. I'm glad I had that effect for you.
It definitely did. I mean, I've got garter stitch blankets on the go as well. You just need a variety, don't you?
That's right.
We kind of covered everything really, but one thing that's really interested me, talking about me having to rip back a fairly simple clue, we live in a really filtered existence now with Instagram and YouTube and Twitter, and everything's kind of filtered and made to look like, we see the front of house of so many people's stories. We don't see the mess that goes on backstage, and for me that kind of that piles on the pressure a bit. I don't know. And I think especially with so many people suffering from anxiety and, you know, mental health issues, and we're constantly comparing. So I'm really interested in keeping it real.
Yeah.
In the interest of keeping it real, do you have any knitting attack stories to share with us? Anything where it's gone wrong?
This week, today?
Wow, okay.
Let's see. Just yesterday, I lost at Yarn Chicken and had to rip out another shawl at the bind off and change colors. And then I'm all like, do I have enough yarn in the pattern to figure out so that nobody runs out of yarn when they're knitting it themselves? So I had to go back and refigure that. I have a sweater that I have ripped. This is terrible. I have ripped it 8 times. The whole thing. The bad part is it's a 2-stranded gradient sweater. So when you're ripping, one strand is always going to be longer than the other strand. So you have like one, and then it gets tangled. So I have right now downstairs 27 little balls of yarn and I'm like, I don't remember what the original order is at this point. I just don't know. Because they're that close in gradient. And my boss is all like, well, we could try again in February. And I'm like, this was not happening. It's a wash. I give up. I just give up. I can't. Apparently, circular yokes from the top down in a gradient, not really my forte. As much as I wanted to. How's that?
That's a good one. That's a good one. So you see, like, everyone who's making mistakes, it happens. Even to the greatest designers, it happens.
I'm middle par. My joke is that in the knitting world, I'm 2% famous. You know, that's the joke I tell my family and friends who know nothing about knitting. And they're all like, only 2%? Yes, only 2%. So I'm a mess. I have a 13-year-old who has discovered defiance lately. And so I am an emotional disaster with her because I just don't know what to do about it. I only just cleaned my work table off right before I got on here with you.
I'm not showing you mine.
Right, well, I will show you the corner that you can't see just right here. I won't show you that corner. Well, actually, yeah, I will. See, it's just a pile. I kind of shoved everything over there.
No, it still doesn't rival my mess.
I haven't cleaned my bathrooms in like 3 weeks. My youngest has a virus where she had a fever for 6 freaking days.
No.
Wouldn't go away. And finally, she woke up with no fever today. I'm like, you are going to school. Because I don't want the nasty robocalls anymore. So life is just hard. It's hard. And even when I'm making mistakes in my knitting, even when it's a really crappy knitting day, knitting is also my salvation.
There we are. That's cool. I mean, I teach, I don't know what the equivalent is in America, but I teach secondary. So that's age 11 to age 18.
Okay.
So we get the teenagers in training through to the full-blown, got to find myself, to the, I'm an adult now. We get the whole lot. And I'll tell you something actually that blew my mind, but actually has become really common, is the number of phone calls that I got as a teacher. Bearing in mind, when I started, I was 21, from parents of teenagers going, they're starting to be really defiant. What do I do? I'm like, I don't know. We have this too. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
That is my only saving grace, I tell you, is to know that there are other moms out there. So I tell my husband, he's like, why is our daughter this way? And I'm like, it's not just our daughter. I promise. It's not just her.
But at least that means she's probably doing really well at school, because that tends to be the way.
Just like her. They're all like, she's such a great student. And I'm like, are we talking about the same kid?
It also happens the other way round. I'll tell you, if I'm teaching a child who's quite defiant in school, they're at home.
Exactly. It's interesting. Very interesting.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you so much. I think I've got like one final question if you've got time.
Get it.
Brilliant. I would like to hear, if possible, no, it's kind of a three-parter here. So it doesn't have to be no, it doesn't have to be too much detail. It's cool. So I'd like to know what your first ever design was,
Okay.
your greatest design achievement, and your personal favorite.
Oh, okay.
They don't all have to be the same, do they?
They do not. My first design was just a pair of socks with a lace panel down the front. But my first published design was a sweater. I think it was called Fall Leaves V-neck or something like that, or Falling Leaves sweater for Creative Knitting magazine. I think it came in the October issue of Creative Knitting in 2009 or 8. No, 9, I think. Pretty sure. Somewhere. What was the second one? Greatest knitting achievement? I don't know if it's an achievement as much as I just was so proud of it, is that I had a shawl design put on the cover of a knitting book from Interweave Knits.
Oh, wow.
I've published my own books, so those are probably the real achievements, but that cover, I don't know why, that just made me really, really, really proud. And then my favorite design, that's a toss-up, because I think they're equal. I love Tullameen. I just love how the colors came together. But we had an Advent mystery knit along last year with Sweet Georgia, and it was our first one ever. It was this crazy idea that Felicia had. She was like, can you take 20 little teeny tiny skeins of 25 yards
Yes.
and make a pattern out of it? And I went, okay, I'll try. And maybe I'm super proud of that too. Maybe that's my greatest achievement, but I loved it. I just love it. It's one of my favorite things. I love how it came together. All the colors just flowed. It literally looks like a sunrise over the evergreens in Colorado mountains. Like it just goes from dark green to that super light white at the top. And it's just, I love that one.
That sounds amazing. Actually, I remember, I think Felicia referenced it in one of her earlier Taking Back Fridays. And that blew my mind, that like every last bit of the card being used up.
Yeah.
And,
so that's one of those ones where knitters don't like to run out of yarn for a pattern. And I know that, I get that. But I only have 25 yards to work with, and I have to maximize it.
Yeah.
So you are going to knit until it runs out, wherever it runs out, in the middle of the row even. You just have to. It's only 25 yards. That's, it doesn't go very far. So that was like a really big challenge in being able to do that and, be ready for upsetness, which there was a few. But, they don't like to run out of yarn, or they feel like the yarn placement was just too ambiguous. But still, I love that shawl. So you can look it up. It's Winter Dawn on Ravelry.
Oh, I definitely will. And actually, I think that went with the whole thing about using up all the yarn, which I noticed was a feature of the Tullameen as well. And having heard about the Advent, I was like, how am I going to swatch? So what I did, I swatched.
Yeah.
I didn't cut it off from the cake of yarn, so I had the cake there and the swatch, and I steamed the swatch and measured it, and then I unraveled it again. I was like, I'm not running out of yarn.
That's because I'm a control freak too, so that was a really big learning process for me as well, because I used to leave like a ton of yarn left over, and sometimes and then, because nobody likes to play yarn chicken, but so it was a really big thing to learn to just see where it goes and be okay.
Yeah.
So I always add 10%, just FYI. I always add 10%.
Oh, okay.
Tullameen though, because of how it worked out, the main color yarn only had I think it was 4.5% left over. So if you're not super close on row gauge, you're gonna end up in a different place. But that's okay, because those kinds of shawls or those kinds of projects, like the Advent or the Mystery Nail, I try to make them as fluid as possible. So really, it really doesn't matter where you.
Yeah, I liked that. It did kind of feel like you were giving us permission to not quite do it exactly if we need to, which is nice, because that's something like being a knitter who's always knit from other people's patterns. Right. That knowledge that you can tweak things.
Yeah.
It feels a bit like you're going up to the Sistine Chapel and going, I think his nose is too big. I'm just gonna. So actually, that was really liberating.
Good.
Oh, thank you so much for talking with me, Tabitha. I did promise you a quick fire round if you're willing to go for it. Okay. All right. So for people viewing this, I'm just going to do a kind of daddy or chips type thing, and we'll see. So I'm going to give you like no time at all to think about it.
I'm ready. I love these.
You're ready. I'm not. I've lost my notes. Okay. Knitting or crochet?
Knitting.
Magic loop or DPNs?
DPN.
Speckle or solid?
Oh, solid. I want to like speckles, but I don't.
Oh, you've thrown me. Sweaters or cardigans?
Cardigans.
Oh, interesting. Shawls or socks?
Socks.
Project bags or whatever bag I can find?
Project bags.
Great. Thank you so much. I've had a blast talking to you. It's been lovely.
You are just a joy. I love it. I can't wait to watch more of your videos on YouTube.
Oh, that's really kind of you. I must admit, I do kind of embrace that. I've given up on trying to filter it. I'm a hot mess. This is what you get.
Go for it. Be real.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, great. And I'm looking forward to showing off my eventually finished Tullameen when it's eventually.
I can't wait. But thank you. It's been. I'm just thrilled you wanted to do this. This was fun.
No, I'm thrilled. I'm blown away that you offered to. It's great. It's really great.
No.
My humble little podcast and my humble little corner.
Oh, I love it. Well, keep on walking because I'm watching you.
Oh, thank you.
Keep on doing what you do, and I'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.